3, 2, 1. Let's start the show.
In December of 2018, Gail and I took a trip to Searcy, Arkansas to visit relatives and thought it would be a nice idea to take our grandchildren, Alex and Autumn, along with us. On the way to Searcy, Arkansas, we thought it would also be a good idea to stop by Little Rock Air Force Base, as that was our first duty station back in August of 1987. Little Rock Air Force Base is located in Jacksonville, Arkansas, just up the road from the capital of Arkansas, Little Rock. Our military career had started a few months earlier in April of 1987 in San Antonio, Texas, at Lackland Air Force Base, where I entered basic military training. I was in BMTS 3707 Flight 495. And all of this started on 4 April of 1987 and went through the last half of May. Our next stop in the military was Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois, where I was trained as a hydraulic mechanic. Well, technically it was hydraulics, but we just shortened it to hydraulics. During the time at Chanute Air Force Base, this would be the first home for Gail and I together since joining the Air Force. We lived in Rantoul, Illinois, and our address was 414.5 North Tanner Street. Back in 1993, Chanute Air Force Base met its end when it was permanently closed. Following Chanute Air Force Base, our next assignment took us to Little Rock Air Force Base, where I would be performing maintenance on a C-130E model. In 1989, the front gate at Little Rock Air Force Base received a facelift in the way of a static display C-130. I actually remember working on this C-130, but only in its preparation to go to the front gate. The best I can remember, my job was to drain the hydraulic fluid. I suppose I did an okay job, since there have not been any major leaking issues that I'm aware of since then. Anyway, this plane has some interesting history. Apparently, it was one of the last planes to leave Vietnam just prior to the fall of Saigon in early of 1975. The tail number is 560518, which means this A-model C-130 is from 1956. Another interesting fact, Little Rock Air Force Base opened in January of 1955, just 1 year prior. Also, the original model had a 3-bladed prop which probably looked like this. Eventually, the plane was refurbished with the 4-bladed props that we see today. We were stationed at the Rock for just shy of 8 years, August of 1987 through March of 1994. During that time, we lived in 4 different houses and were blessed with 2 beautiful children, Becky and Michael. Let's start first with where I worked. When I first stepped onto the flight line, it looked something like this. Approximately 100 C-130s, which included those operated by the Air National Guard. In this picture towards the top right, you can see a big hangar. This is where I worked for at least the first 2 to 3 years. Also, as you look at this picture, you can see a flight line road. During those days when I worked swing shift, Gail and the kids would drive the flight line to see me before their bedtime. On occasion, we were able to connect with each other. See, things could get done before the cell phone age. Well, thankfully for those days, We have many memories filled with joy that'll last a lifetime. But this absolutely could not happen these days. 9/11 changed a lot of things in policies and procedures, so one of those was the flight line road being blocked to civilian vehicles. Well, back to the hangar. The hangar was so big you could fit 6 C-130s completely inside the hangar, tail and all. When we first moved to Arkansas, Gail and I lived in the apartments at 2218 Linda Lane. They were located right across from the Jacksonville Elementary School. We maybe spent just shy of 2 years there before we moved to a house on 10 Cherry Court. This is where our first precious bundle of joy came into our lives. Rebecca Gail Brown, born 14 June 1989. A brief 20 months after Becky, on 25 February 1991 came our next bundle of joy, Michael Jeffrey Brown. Both of the children had Dr. Taylor as their doctor and were born in Rebsamen Hospital. It's not called that today, but it's still standing. The base has since erected other airplanes to display in a park, which can be a very enjoyable stroll. Okay, I guess it's time to head off for Searcy, Arkansas, but not before a brief nap. Enjoy the rest of the show.